And we are back on this crazy pub day on A Mighty Blaze. I'm Robin Kall with Reading with Robin. And my guest now is Sue Monkid. Sue, it is so amazing to see you. It's been way too long. I mean, was that Secret Life of Bees 2004?
No, earlier than that even. 2000 came out in 2002.
Okay, so we hosted you in Rhode Island in 2004 then. That must have been it.
Yes.
Right, so wow, so it was a 2-year-old book when they picked that for Reading Across Rhode Island. We hosted Sue in 2004 because our first year was David Baldacci in 2003. Anyway, enough about that, but it's so good to see your face. It's been, everything was bees back in that day, in the day. Yeah. So it's pub day, and I want to give Sue an introduction. Sue Monkid's debut novel, The Secret Life of Bees, out in 2002, spent more than 100 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, has sold more than 6 million copies in the US, was turned into both an award-winning major motion picture and musical, has been translated into 36 languages. Her second novel, The Mermaid Chair, was a #1 New York Times bestseller, adapted into a television movie. Third novel, Invention of Wings, and Oprah pick, and also #1 New York Times bestseller, and out today, one of spring's most anticipated titles here on A Mighty Blaze. It's the Book of Longings, and welcome Sue Monkid to A Mighty Blaze.
Thank you, Robin. It's really nice to see you and to be able to talk with you again.
It's just, it's like books are friends, you know, and that sense of comfort, and seeing you just like makes me feel happy, and just thinking about the books that we love to share, and just in recounting the titles, remembering the stories, just reading the titles, I'm like, characters were like flashing around in my head. And I should also let everyone know, so Sue and I will be chatting, and Sue is graciously accepting some questions from the audience. So our super duper team behind the scenes will text me some questions later. But if you have questions for Sue, we will be able to take them towards the end. So be thinking about them. No pressure, but we will take questions. And visit Sue's site at suemonkid.com. And from there you can find her on all her social channels. And it is a pleasure. And also, I'm just staring at your gorgeous bookshelves behind you.
Yeah, well, I figured it was appropriate, the obligatory bookshelf shot, you know.
I love the obligatory. Well, what I try and do is play guess what book is behind the author. And I'm like looking at the, you know, just certain spines really do jump out at you. And will you hold up your copy, because I don't have one here.
Right, well, I'll hold up, I have the art handy, but I was a good author and I propped it up in the background.
I do see it, it's right there.
And this is, I don't know if it's coming in backward or not.
No, it's coming in forward.
Is it coming in correct? Okay. Yes, that's the Book of Longings out today. Yeah.
Really, no, but I see it behind, over your shoulder. Because
I know I'm gonna have to be like this.
It pops, you know, so I was like, I know that that's the cover. It's gorgeous. It's the Book of Longings. I mean, go to suemonkid.com for more information. And I know you have an event, is it tonight at Books Are Magic, or no? Is that not yours?
No. I have an event. I have a bunch of virtual events coming up this week. Yes. So and they're on my website.
Right, they're on your website. I'm conflating. I've spoken to so many authors. This is why I don't get to read, Sue. And I'm like so excited to talk about this premise and the Herculean task of imagining the wife of Jesus if he had had a wife. I know there's a whole, it's not really what it's about, but like Anna, where did this book start? Like, what was that idea, and where did you come up with, and what was the discussion like with your editor or agent? Like, I got an idea. We're going to go back to biblical times, and you know, because that is heady for sure and so exciting. So yeah, start there.
The idea came to me, I want to say it was an October afternoon. You remember, I remember just where I was when the idea struck me to really do this. It had actually flitted through my mind about 15 years ago that somebody should write a book about the wife of Jesus. And I thought, should I do that? And it kind of flew away
Mhm.
from me. And I didn't take it that seriously at the time, but it did captivate me, my imagination. So 15 years later, here it came again, but this time it came not like a little bird lighting on your head. It came like a 2x4 between my eyes. It was very captivating and exciting to me immediately. And I was sitting in my study, and about a week later, after I had digested this a little bit and decided, yes, I'm really going to do this, I was talking to my agent on the phone, and I said, well, the Invention of Wings had only been out in hardback, not even a year.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And she said, what's up? And I said, well, I have this idea. And I told her what it was, that I was wanting to write about the fictional wife of Jesus. And there was this silence. And then there was a kind of scream. And she said, I'm calling the publisher right now.
I
It's like, whoa, slow down. So they seemed to be very excited about it at the time. I remember them saying, well, it's very red tintish,
That was my first thought. Yeah. And I'm such a fan of Anita's book. And for people who want to imagine, because there's also, I did a little bit of digging, and certainly theories. And so I do not play any kind of biblical scholar anywhere in my life, but I read up. So, you read enough and you think, yeah, I could see that. But when an author with such vivid storytelling skills thinks, what about this? I can just imagine that moment of like, I got a call right away, because it hasn't been done, right? And it's Zoom on Kids. So like, so yeah, that's quite a task to take on. And also the sense of strong women and women being, where they're relegated to in the Bible. And I know, reading up on what would life have been like had he been married, what, just all of these questions go spinning. So automatically book club pick, right? I mean, I can only imagine the discussions. And then, what are you hearing the book's out now, but what were you hearing from people who are reading the early copies?
Some people would say, I was a little nervous about reading this book, but I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of hesitancy sometimes, because I have married Jesus off. And I think, people aren't so sure what to think about that. But like 100% of people who said that followed up quickly to tell me they were so glad and so excited they did. I mean, this is really a story of my character, Anna. She is on a quest, and it is the story of their marriage, but it's also thoroughly her story, her longings, and her quest to fulfill what she calls the largeness in her life, and to tell the stories of women and write them. So she's a bright, daring sort for the first century. She's like the world's first feminist.
I love that, right? Because it had to start somewhere. I mean, and also women's stories continue to be something that are, they're just unfolding, and we're learning about so many, hidden stories, all of this. So why not start with the possible wife of Jesus? So just imagining what life would have been like in that sense. And also I was reading, so in the notes, Anne is expected to marry an older widower, a prospect that horrifies her. An encounter with an 18-year-old Jesus changes everything. So if you don't want to immediately read that, I can't, like, if that isn't like the most exciting kind of premise, there were other plans for her, but she was, she met this 18-year-old Jesus. So what was the research? Of course, that's a question, like for this, and how many rabbit holes did you find yourself in?
Oh, the research was monumental. I had no idea what I was getting into, really, when I started this. I realized that if you're going to write a historical novel, the validity or the authenticity of it is in the detail. And I wanted to get it exactly right. So I spent over a year researching before I ever wrote the first word. And it was a real, like every day at it. I read what felt like a small library of books. And I got where I really enjoyed doing it. And you're right, I found all kinds of rabbit holes to go down. And my daughter had to do an intervention with me finally to get me to come, to write the book. But it was most of the scholarship, I say that lightly, was about the historical Jesus. How do you approach writing the character of Jesus? It's very daunting. I decided to portray him as a human, his human side. And I was very interested in just the humanity of Jesus. So I studied just in depth the historical Jesus scholars. And then there was the whole Palestine and the Roman occupation. And there was just a million things I had to learn about. So it was quite an experience just to research it, but it was also kind of fun.
Yeah, well, and that's what adds to the richness. That's why we come to read a Sue Monk Kidd book. That's that expectation of, yeah, I can imagine this happening. And you mentioned the red tent earlier. And when I first met Anita Diamond, I spent an awful lot of time saying, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know. And she kept saying, Robin, I made it up. We did a lot of that. But it's so believable, in the hands of a gifted storyteller that, why not? So what were some of the longings? I'll have to use the word in the title because it's also a great title, of Anna, and putting yourself in that time period, which is a trick, and really what's changed, of the human condition.
Well, Anna is full of longings. This is where I derived the title. And actually, her husband, Jesus, has his own longings too. The story takes place in that period of time between before his public ministry really begins, with a couple of exceptions. And so I had this blank slate, and I could write about his messiahship or his social prophet in the making. But Anna has many longings, and hers have to do with wanting to be a scribe and write about silenced, invisible, forgotten women and their stories. And she wants to study, and she reads and writes. She's very gifted. And she knows she has this largeness in her, and she just wants to bring it forth. So that's her longing. And there's a line I wrote in the novel which says, return to your longings. They will teach you everything. And I sort of believe that the soul speaks very eloquently to us through our longings. And that was the case with Anna. So she was trying to return to them and follow them. And it's a long up and down tumultuous journey that she goes through to do that throughout.
There are the longings, and also, paying attention to them. And I suppose when paying attention to them, it sort of forces well, now what are you going to do kind of thing, in terms of going forward. And then I would imagine with Anna at that time period, what were the options? How could she satisfy certain longings? And so the whole idea of the story being built around, it's really Anna's story, is one that's going to resonate with your readers. And it's out today. It's Sue Monk Kidd's book. I'm sorry, the Book of Longings. I'm thinking about other things keep popping up. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. There's other pictures that, I can see it. I don't know if the audience can see it, but other things are popping up, and I don't know if this is some kind of weird Zoom things, so I'm trying to ignore them, but so far they haven't been inappropriate. So that's why I was like losing my space. But in the Book of Longings, and go to SueMonkKid.com for more information about the book. And do you have, you mentioned so many books that you read while you were researching. Do you have those listed for people who want just more information about this time period?
You know, I don't, but you've just given me a pretty good idea. Maybe I should pop that on my website.
More work
because,
for Sue Kid.
yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Because I think some people might find it interesting and want to explore a little more. And there's some very reader-friendly ones I read, and then some not so reader-friendly ones I read.
Real scholarly ones. You want
So I'll try to put them on there. But Anna's longings, I think, were concretized, or what's the word? Became visible in an incantation bowl that I found on one of my chases down a rabbit hole. You know, I turned up I was on the internet, and I just kept following something, and suddenly all these bowls appeared on my screen, and they were ancient 1st century incantation bowls. And people at the time and they were still there, written in a spiraling way inside the bowl, these prayers, these longings. And I was so struck by that I gave one to Anna. And when I saw that, I knew immediately how this novel would start. Those are always the hardest part for me, are the beginnings.
Right.
And I will labor on them for months, you know, trying to get the beginning right. And then I just knew it would start with her and this bowl.
Wow.
And she writes her deepest prayer in this bowl. And it will be like a central icon throughout the novel. So it kind of carries these longings of hers. And you're right, she lives in a time and a place where everything's kind of arranged against her and women doing this.
Yeah.
It's sort of taboo, and it's going to get her in all sorts of trouble and even become a dangerous situation for her, life-threatening even. So I think, you know, she has to be brave, and she's daring. She's very daring. And that's her, as I've said many times, that's her superpower. She's daring, she's brave, and she's rebellious.
Yeah, I love, that's like my favorite kind of strong female character. So yeah, to be able to sort of be true to that and be up against all sorts of, I mean, silencing women. I mean, that's as old as time, you know, and keeping that sense down, but also just the symbolism of that bowl and what that would mean for a woman and what we carry. I just love, I mean, that's the thing about your books. There's so much to think about in them. And as you were talking about the longings, I was just sort of imagining when you go to the Wailing Wall and people put their longings in the wall, really, it's the same kind of very reverent, thought-provoking idea of where these longings go, and if they're unfulfilled, who might find them, and what kind of happens to them. And I'm just, I don't know what's going on with Zoom. Hopefully people aren't seeing it. If you have questions, Sue Monkid and I are on a mighty blaze, and I'm totally trying to ignore them. And hopefully, again, they're, yeah, I'm also looking at my phone to make sure I know that the Jennas would let me know. It's very, it was bound to happen. Everything's working so smoothly, and we're all in our own spaces, really counting on the kindness of Zoom to do this. So I'm trying to ignore that. And it's the Book of Longings. It's out today. I mean, it's April 21st, certainly when Pub Day was, you know, we didn't know that this is the way it was going to go. And I have just been so encouraged by so many readers who were like, what should I read? What should our book club read? I've told this story before, book clubs are adding books in, and you want to absolutely add the Book of Longings onto your list. It's, if this doesn't give your book club discussion, I remember the Da Vinci Code. I went to a book club discussion and it got really divisive because when you bring religion into things or historical, whatever, however people want to read into it, and I think having a discussion is what everything really comes down to. So what are some of the hopes that you have for the Book of Longings in its discussion?
Well, I think book clubs would have a lot to discuss with this particular book. And one of the most important takeaways for me, as for discussion, but also just in taking away something for your own individual self, is about looking at our own longings. What is our passion? Anna wanted to find a voice and have a voice in the world. And I think that's very relevant. And what are we looking for? What is our passion? What lies at the bottom of our heart? What are our longings? Those kinds of questions, I think, would be very relevant for discussion or just to think about. And that's one aspect, because that goes to the heart of what Anna is about. But there are numerous others. This is also the story of her marriage. It's the story of sisterhood. There's a kind of community of women. Surprise, surprise, I can't write a novel without it. Community of women who
Yes.
are very bonded, and they bless each other's largeness. And they end up kind of creating a family together. That's a topic that I think also has relevance. There's a Me Too moment in this novel that is relevant. There's a lot of political resistance in this novel because it is set during a time of Roman occupation, and there's a lot of political theater, so to speak, going on in this story. So it has lots of layers to talk about, from motherhood to just the ambitions of women and how we have to struggle sometimes to bring them forth.
So everything that you could possibly look for in a story.
The kitchen sink too. The whole kitchen sink is in there.
The bowl, the kitchen sink, the longings. And I think the thing that's really kind of cool is that certainly when you're writing a book, what's happening around us, even if it's not part of the story, it becomes part of the story because it's informing our thinking. But so many of the things that are depicted in the book and are strong themes could not be more relevant. And also this community of people we hold close while we're all separated physically, people are connecting more than ever with their tribe, if you will. So, just there's that element also. And watching the clock, if there are questions, I don't know if we do have questions, but if you go to A Mighty Blaze later, Sue, and you see questions, you can answer them. Your team, you have like the best team, and they were so on top of everything and making sure all this was going to work right, because one day it does and you never know. So we're very thankful that it happened. But if you would let if you're watching and you have questions for Sue about the book, about anything about what's behind her, can you hold up the Book of Longings again?
Sure.
It is gorgeous.
There it is.
Oh,
yeah.
It is so gorgeous. I know you're hiding the little.
I'm hiding the sticker that says it's the advanced reader, but it's the same cover.
It is gorgeous. I love that you're doing that. It was very crafty, and how lovely of me to point it out. And go to SueMonkhood.com for more information about the book and about virtual tours and book club questions. I'm sure all of it, and find Sue on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Sue, what are you reading before I let you go?
Well, I just finished reading The Secrets We Kept, Untamed. I'm reading a nonfiction book right now called Pilgrimage to Eternity.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many books, and I'm excited, looking forward to a couple that I mentioned earlier today in my video. A Burning by a young debut novelist coming out in June. Just lots of wonderful books are coming. Yeah.
Love it. I know that, there is the excitement of the new books, and when it's like the spring books and the most anticipated books, and the Book of Longings on all the lists, people were so excited, and it's out today. You can get it wherever you get books, whoever's shipping, bookshop.org to support the indies. And this is such a treat, Sue. I hope it's not another 16 years till I see you again.
I know. See, now I'm white-haired. So
Beautiful. And now I like less, and it's all you know, it's almost like not a day has gone by though. And it's just so charming to hear you and see you and to celebrate your new book. And it's out today, the Book of Longings. And I got to jump because they're texting me, Sue.
okay. Well, it was a pleasure, Robin. It really was. Thank you.
Congratulations again. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the readers say and just having so much discussion and a lot to think about, and more strong women. We can never have enough of them. So thank you so much, Sue. On behalf of A Mighty Blaze, Sue Monk Kidd, ladies and gentlemen.
And thanks to A Mighty Blaze.
The best. You're welcome. I will accept your thanks on their behalf. I feel like I should get a statue.
Yeah. Bye, Robin.
Be well. Take care.
You too.